Hey, what's up, guys? Bob here, continuing the player breakdown for Draftkings Week 1. The other day we talked defenses. Now we're going to talk tight ends. What you really need to know about the tight end position Week 1 is it revolves around Hunter Henry. He's at 3,900, and he's projecting as a top 5 tight end. Pretty much any projection system that you run, that's something to keep in mind because he's way too cheap at 3,900. He's going to be the predominant tight end in cash games, and he's a great tournament option as well. So that's definitely something you have to keep in mind when breaking down the tight end position. We can hop right into Travis Kelce at 7,100 at the higher end of the spectrum for the tight end position. Kansas City at Jacksonville. Kansas City's a road favorite going into Jacksonville, so I kind of like it's kind of the same with betting. Never bet against a home dog. Like, I like Jacksonville in this game. I like Fournette in this game, so I don't mind stacking the Kansas City passing attack, especially a guy like Kelce, and paying up and being contrarian in tournaments and rostering a guy like Kelce, just because I feel like you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey's on him. A lot of these targets are going to get funneled to the middle of the field to a guy like Kelce, off receiver like Sammy Watkins. I like the KC passing game. Not sure what to do with the running game right now, but I like the KC passing game. I don't mind paying up for Kelce in game stacks or as a one-off in tournaments. George Kittle's the next guy. Pretty much the same situation as Kelce, 6,600. San Fran's now coming across country. I think they're a road dog, San Francisco. Not sure, but either way, like, it's a tight spread. They're coming across country. Kittle's going to be utilized in this offense. We've seen that last year. So he has more of the. I'm pretty positive he has the better game script. Like, we don't have to rely on he's a road dog. Like, and he's going against a team that's really struggled versus tight ends in Tampa Bay. I like George Kittle if you want to stack up this game, which is something that's going to be pretty prevalent in GPPs. Like, by all means, roster Kittle. You can roster him as a one-off to pay up and be contrarian, just like Kelce. They're two really good tight ends. That's pretty much the breakdown that I have. A lot of allocation to KC and Jacksonville, San Francisco, Tampa Bay, Indy and the Chargers, or Carolina and LA in terms of, like, seriously 4 or 5 man game stacking in tournaments like the Millionaire Maker. Just something to keep in mind as we continue these breakdowns. Zach Ertz, Washington at Philadelphia, doesn't have the game script. Like, he's the higher end guy that I don't want to pay up for. He could be contrarian. I'm not going to get there in my builds. I don't think Philadelphia is a favorite. I think they can get it done with the defense and the running game. I just don't think there's going to be the opportunity, although Wentz targets Ertz like no other. So he is sandwiched in between two pretty good plays in Kittle and Howard. Definitely going to see lesser ownership, so if you wanted to roster Ertz, that's fine. I just don't really love the Philly side. Like, I like the Philly running game, pretty much. And I don't even really love that, because how can you ever love the Philly running game with 15 running backs that are utilized in that backfield? Definitely like the defense, though. Kind of talked about that the other day. Evan Ingram versus the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he's in a better... skipped O.J. Howard at 5K. Same game as George Kittle. Like, if you want to stack up the Tampa Bay side, that's perfectly fine. O.J. Howard, something of note, like in preseason, I think the second preseason game, he ran every snap with Jameis Winston, so there's no more of that split that he had to deal with Cameron Brate in the past. So at 5K, paying up to be contrarian for a guy like Howard, if you want to roster him by himself or in game stacks, I think that's fine. Evan Ingram, like, you're not going to game stack Dallas, but to pay up and be contrarian, because you're not going to game stack the Giants versus Dallas, but to pay up and be contrarian and roster Ingram as a one-off, like, I feel like that's fine, just because the Giants have so little at the receiver position in negative game script. Positive game script, pretty much, not negative game script. They're going to be behind in this game, and they're going to be throwing a lot. So Evan Ingram should see his fair share of targets at 4,800. It's a good way to pay up to be contrarian and get a guy who's going to see a lot of usage that has positive game script. Eric Ebron, 4,100. Like, if you want to stack up Indy and the Chargers, that's fine. It's just, for me, like, it's Hunter Henry. And then Eric Ebron is splitting time with Jack Doyle. He should see some tight end. Should see some touchdown regression. He ran so hot last year from the tight end position in terms of scoring touchdowns. Just think there's going to be a natural regression there. There's more Jack Doyle, who's down at 3,400. That really had the numbers in between the 20s, and then it was Eric Ebron who just scored all the touchdowns and vultured Jack Doyle. Hunter Henry, he's at 3,900. I think he's like pretty much he's the guy that this whole position revolves around on the slate, especially the featured slate I'm talking about. 3,900 in the afternoon slate as well, probably, I would imagine. I think this game's at 425. Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I'm just guessing. Looks like it's on the West Coast. Hunter Henry's the guy. Great play. Like, he grades out as a top 5 tight end at 3,900. Draftkings algorithm mispriced, so he's the lock in cash games, it looks like. And David Njoku, 3,700. Just too many mouths to feed in that Cleveland offense. Like, I don't love Njoku. Like, they're definitely going to try to get Beckham in the end zone, if not just once, twice. So him being the shiny new toy, I think it really caps Njoku's ceiling, especially week 1. His ceiling could be capped just throughout the season just because of how many weapons they have in that Cleveland offense. Jordan Reed at 3,600. Like, he's fine. If you're going to roster Jordan Reed, you roster him week 1 at Philly with the positive game script. I don't mind it. I'm not going to do it. I don't love it. Like, I don't hate it. I'm just in between, indifferent. If you want to roster Jordan Reed, like, go ahead. Philly's really good on defense versus tight ends, although they were last year. We'll see if that continues. Delaney Walker is the positive game script versus Cleveland at 3,500. Be interesting to see how much Jonnu Smith kind of cuts into his workload if he plays week 1. I'm not really touching Walker. Like we talked about Jack Doyle, like, yeah, he's fine. I think I prefer Doyle to Ebron, just because I think as Ebron's in for negative regression, I think Doyle's in for some positive regression, especially in terms of touchdowns. So I would take the $600 savings on Doyle. Kyle Rudolph at 3,300. If there's a tight end I'm taking, if I'm game stacking Atlanta, Minnesota, or just pulling a tight end from that game, it's Austin Hooper. I just think he's going to see a lot more. Julio's going to be covered by Xavier Rhodes. Maybe it funnels some targets to Hooper. Kyle Rudolph, like, Atlanta doesn't have a great like, I could see Diggs and Thielen just torching that Atlanta secondary. So I'm not on. Although Atlanta does have some good corners, like, it's more of a Diggs Thielen move than it would be a Kyle Rudolph for me. I think Hooper is the guy in that game at 3,200 who would probably see a little bit more targets. But the low tight end that I really like is Greg Olsen at 3,200. In the lineups that I don't have Henry, I'll probably have a tight end from this game, the Rams-Carolina game, whether it be Greg Olsen or Gerald Everett at 2,900. I personally right now think this is a pretty good game to stack up as of August 20th, 21st, whatever time it is. I'm kind of doing this late at night. Thursday, Friday, I'm not really sure. I think it's still Thursday. You've got 10 minutes left on Thursday. Mark Andrews, he's a guy, one of my buddies, I think Justin, who does a lot on the Fancy Bros HQ account, posts a lot of the season-long stuff. He was talking about Andrews as a play. For me, Mark Andrews, like, the total in that game is 38, whereas the total in the Rams-Carolina game is like 50. So I'm going to pull a tight end from that situation rather than the Miami-Baltimore situation every time. Although I do think Baltimore could be playing from behind in that game, so Mark Andrews would see a bump in targets. But I think if I'm game stacking and I want that leverage in tournaments just by having that construction, I'm pulling guys like Everett and Greg Olsen. That's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll continue this with wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks later on in the week. Appreciate you guys hitting the like button. Smash that shit. And I'll talk to you soon.